It was a Saturday evening, and my friend Robert and I decided to do some lamping, looking for the odd fox. We came to a crossway and decided to turn left. As we turned left, in the middle of the road, there was this huge great black thing, and the eyes of it was like golden nuggets. I said to Robert, I said, "What on earth is that?" Robert got out the vehicle and actually put the rifle on the bonnet of the vehicle and looked through the scope. As he looked through the scope, he just said to me, he said, "I don't believe what I'm seeing." And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, "I'm not sure." We all sort of thought the same thing, but nobody said anything. And on the way home, it was very quiet in the vehicle. And one of us bucked up courage and said, "What do you think it was?" And we all come to a decision that it was definitely the black cat.
I started trapping as a young fella, and by young I do mean young. I started crawling through the swamps when I was 9, 10 years old, and found out there were some pretty neat animals in there, and eventually I met an old trapper coming down a slough or a creek one day in a big old dugout Puro canoe, saying, "What are you doing, boy?" And I'm saying, "I'm chasing muskrats." And he says, "Well, how'd you like to learn how to trap things?" I went, "Trapping?" And I've been doing it ever since.
We've just had a lynx cross right in front of the trail on us here. You can see his track here. It came right across the road here, and here's his print right here. And lynx track looks like it's out of focus. When you look at the actual pads, you can see the outline of the pads here, but because they have a huge amount of hair around the bottom of the foot, you don't get a very distinct impression of exactly what it is. But this is basically a smoking hot track. The only thing that'll be hotter than this one if he was standing in it. This cat's following footstep for footprint in this rabbit track.
It's not a matter of knowing where we're going to catch it. It's a matter of understanding how cats move and what they're looking for. They have to have certain things. Food is the primary driving factor with a cat. They've got to eat.
Lots of rabbit sign.
But a lynx is a huge traveler. They travel thousands and thousands of miles. They go forever.
This cat decided to come out here in the open, and then he decided that he didn't like what he saw and jumped back up into the trees again.
Yeah, he's moving some, isn't he?
We'll come up here and have a look-see. We'll keep on going and see what we can find. Kind of nice to be in the open after being out in those trees.
I know guys who've worked and lived in the bush for 50 years and never actually physically seen a cat, but they're certainly there, and occasionally, we catch them, and things get interesting.
More than interesting. Those are things that we definitely are looking for as far as sign is concerned and track on the ground. And we do this as part of our normal day-to-day routine when we're in the bush. We continually read sign as we go through, because we have to be able to do that in order to be effective at what we're trying to do, and especially the target species that we're after. We'll go up here. Aye, pawsy. Did a little bit of a gallop here.
Yeah, I guess
we
stirred him up a bit.
Double track there. And then he went back to motoring along here. That's a big cat. That's a dandy.
We have 3 species of cats here. We have the bobcat, the lynx, and the cougar. Been known to take calves. Been known to take lots of dogs, human beings as well. These cats, all cats, bobcats, lynx, cougar, are very, very elusive. And it's probably the fact, not only the terrain, but a lot of people don't see what they're looking at, because this guy is, being 2 foot tall, he can lay down in grass that's only a foot tall. And you've seen house cat, how the house cat stalks across the floor. Well, these guys can do the same thing. And when they're down 16 inches off the ground, they can collapse their bodies down very small, unless the human eye has twigged a movement. If he's lying there very still, you'd walk right by him.
I've been seeing this cat roughly about twice a year now, average, you know, for the last 12, 15 years. Usually the same colour, black, about 2'6" in height, 3 foot in length, long tail, stumpy head. I found sheep carcasses, deer carcasses, throat ripped out. And I saw it cross the ride in front of me early one morning, like deer stalking, jumped across the ride. I sort of measured the pad marks where he jumped. It's roughly about 8 foot in length. Definitely a large black cat, you know, yeah.
I was working for a software company in Widnes, and I came over a couple of times on holiday, and talking to one of the guys in the office, I said, you know, I'm thinking about going to Canada, and he said, why would you want to leave Widnes? And it seemed like a stunning answer to me, and virtually made my mind up that, yeah, I really would quite like to leave Widnes. There's quite a lot of legislation that covers trapping here. You have to go on quite an extensive course, and that's where I met Pete Wise. He was the instructor. That's part of where I got the idea for this whole thing of coming to England. You know, I've known about the big cats in Britain since I was a kid. There was always the Beast of Bodmin, and I figured we could take someone like Pete from here and dump him in Britain, and with reasonable luck we could probably catch one of these things if they exist. You know, if Pete isn't able to catch this animal, then it probably isn't there.
Boy, there's a lot of rabbit in here.
Yeah, they're just all over.
I cannot, no wonder he's in here feeding or trying to feed. Here's the rabbit track coming across the road here, this little trail. Somebody snowshoed through here and beat a quite a nice path though. Oh, here he goes. He's gone off the side here. See this, he's mixed in, his track's mixed in with this rabbit here.
Yeah.
And he's gone off into the trees here.
Oh, there he is, look.
That's tremendous. We should just take a little walk up the bank here a little bit. Maybe we can see him back up into the trees there if he's not moving off. He's came up this little trail here off to the side where we tracked down, and he's following the rabbit.
I can't see him anymore.
I lay odds though that he'll continue up along this bank here someplace, and he may even cross back down again on the bottom down where we were calling earlier, but
Yeah.
this is a trap that we use over here. It's a soft catch and meets the humane trapping standards set down. When we take these things, and they're quite strong to set up as far as springs and that is concerned, but they're we take these guys and we set them, and when they go off, it gets the animal in there, but it doesn't stress them out. And I can demonstrate by doing this, putting my hand in there. I'm not distressed here in any way, shape, or form. Rubber padded jaws. It is purely a holding device. I cannot move, I can't budge, I can't get out of there. And where the humaneness aspect comes in here is that we check these lines frequently. And if I'm using this particular set, it's a set that I would check a minimum of every 24 hours. I run consistently with this set all the time. It works very, very well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this set, I'm going to wire this trap into here. So it's good and tight. And I'll take it, I'll hear that little click there, that makes it, we fine tune it. Now we're going to turn it. I'll set it in place basically where I want it to go. And put this in place, bed that down and bed that trap so that trap doesn't move. Reach into my pocket here, and I've got a little piece of wax paper, and I use wax paper because it doesn't freeze up to the trap. And what I'll do is I'll put that little piece of wax paper on top of the set. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dust some snow. I'll take a little bit of snow here, and I'm going to, sometimes if you get a little bit heavy-handed here, get a lump of snow and land on the trap, and it'll trigger by itself. One of the things I have to do is I want to make sure that he puts his foot right on that spot. So I'm going to grab a couple little sticks over here. I'm going to take these and I'm going to narrow this doorway down. So the doorway, he's going to come right down the middle here. I'm directing him exactly where I want him to go. And basically I've created a little landing pad here for him to go onto. Now, what I need here is I need some attractants here. I have a special lure that I've made up. And I'm going to take this lure and I'm going to reach up on the branch above and I'm going to put a little bit of lure on here. And that's a special lure that we've made up, and it's a long distance call. And what that does is that smell will carry on the breezes and the cattle go, boy, I like that smell. That smells really good. It's important you get the lid back on square on this one, because if it comes off in your pocket, it becomes socially unacceptable real quick. I've got a lynx track coming across the road here. Kind of hope he keeps going in the direction that he is. I've got a set about 20 yards up in front of me here. He's still heading towards that direction. I'm gonna beat up through the trees here a little bit. Gotta stop and had a little peek at a squirrel track in here. He's continuing on. He's still heading towards that set, which is kind of nice. This had a little peek in here, and he's come up on this ridge. He's come in behind this cubby, and he's got it right around the back side of this cubby, and be doggone if he didn't walk right into it. Just came by here 15 minutes ago. I went up the road, I checked this set. I came through here, I checked 2 sets down the road, and here's a lynx. He's come in the last 15 minutes, and he's walked into this set and has got himself caught. I can see his track over here in the trees where he's come up through the trees, and he walked into the cubby at the bottom end over here, and there he is. He's sitting out there quite peacefully. He hasn't been in that set. Maximum 15 to 20 minutes he's been in that set, and that's it. Just the length of time it took me to go up the road and come back.
Traps and trapping in Canada is a sort of way of life, and most trappers tend to try and harvest their trap lines pretty efficiently. If we try to catch too many animals on a trap line, we're damaging our own business. So it's not in our interest to even start to threaten any animal populations, because that's what we live from.
It was late at night, just getting on for 11. It's clear, the moon was shining, no traffic around because of the petrol blockade. I was doing what I normally do, taking the dog for a walk. And we'd been down the road and we were coming back, and I saw what I thought was a fox coming towards me along the path. And I got the dog's lead round my hand, because she normally chases them. And she didn't pull, and as I sort of looked down to ask her what was wrong, she was shaking. She was flat to the ground, and her ears were against her head, and she was just shaking from tip to tail. And as I looked up, I could see that this thing was against the wall over there, and it was a big black cat, not a fox at all. And it crouched down. I didn't know what to do. I stood there and thought, oh dear. And I stood in front of the dog because I was more concerned for her than I was for myself. And after what seemed like an hour, but probably only 3 to 5 seconds, it just looked at me, got up, turned around and walked away the way it had come up. It took 3 or 4 steps normally, and then it started to bound off, and it was gone in a flash.
You've asked me to go over in England and have a look at what they call an ABC, an alien big cat, and I don't know anything. I'm used to catching cats in this part of the country, but maybe you can start filling me in. Like, where do these cats come from?
Well, the popular belief is that some years ago the British government introduced a new law called the Dangerous Animals Act, which required people who kept dangerous animals to have far more comprehensive means of holding them, better cages, better runs, all of which costs a lot of money. And I understand that a number of these people just let these animals go. I think if we get over there and get into some of the areas where the most reports have been, if there's anything there, I think we've got to be in with a reasonable chance of finding something.
It'd be kind of nice if we could actually say definitively that we did find something, but it'll take a serious amount of work to get in there and do some work with it.
Well, Pete, this is a culmination of pretty much a year's worth of effort and work to get us here. We've put all the research in, we've made all the local contacts, we've plotted where all the sites are and sightings and evidence, and here we are.
It's amazing. I had always thought that with 59 million people or 60 million people living in England, that there just wouldn't be anything this wild. And boy, I'm sadly mistaken in regards to what I'm looking at.
It's a lot denser than even I thought it was going to be.
I can't believe the amount of wildlife though. Just driving down the road and there's pheasants here and deer crossing. And
rabbits all over the
rabbits
place.
And badger and everything else. It's like a smorgasbord here for if there's a cat in here.
Lunch, boys.
Lunch is right.
Come along to this area following up from a number of leads that have come to us about sightings of the cats around this area. Right down behind us here there's a lake, lots and lots of wildfowl down there. There's rabbits all over the place. We've got pheasant pens are all around. The terrain's just marvellous. We're going to set out and walk all over this area. Pete and I are going to split up and halve the time it takes to try and find any signs of cats' movements in here. Everything has to walk on the ground and defecate, so it's got to leave a trace somewhere.
There's basically three areas that we look at here. As we look at sign that's physically on the ground, we'll be looking at sign that is maybe on the trees in regards to scratches and that, maybe a kill if we get very fortunate and have something that actually gets killed, that we can go in there and have a look in there and say that it is or it isn't. And not being absolute magicians, sometimes it's very difficult to prove that it is or it isn't, but we'll definitely give it an effort.
We're going to be able to tell whether there is a large feline carnivore here, but I think everybody that we've so far talked to is totally convinced, and they've seen this animal, and we'd really like to find it. And that's why we're here. It's a mystery.
I'll see you later on.
All right, couple of hours
See you in a
back
couple
in.
hours?
Yep.
You betcha. If you get something, give a yell.
Oh,
Talk
well.
to you later.
I was walking down the path here and coming fly fishing on this pond. I was coming down here towards this tree along this bank here, and I saw just a bit of a black tail flicking in amongst the reeds. Stopped where I am now, and I surprised quite a big cat with a black tail that was drinking out of the lake. I looked at it for a while and then reversed back up the track keeping my eyes on the beast, and that took some considerable, maybe 3 or 4 minutes to get out of sight. It stayed where it was all the time with its eyes on me. I then got to my car shaking. Certainly along most of the tracks there have been a lot of sightings of various descriptions.
Through this corridor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
through the corridor
So
there have
that's-
been many sightings.
So they're if they're in this area, they're moving through this corridor, and
Yeah.
if he's in here, we can box him in here. Or if he passes through,
Yeah.
we're going to definitely find some evidence of sign.
And we've got a few scratch marks here that I see.
Well, I see scratch marks here, and I see scratch marks underneath here,
There's a few more
and
here.
there's a
huh?
few more here. Simon, come on up here for a second.
Yeah.
There, buddy, and give me a leg up here. I'm going to go up here on this branch, and let's have a serious look at what we got. Okay. Oh, hang on. No. Okay. Okay. There we go. I got her. Good, thank you. There's what we see. Scratch marks coming up, and I can also see where he went down, but he came out this branch, and he went all the way out this branch here ways. And looking at this a little bit more, it looks like a dog has come up here. He's tried getting that old squirrel running out on that limb, and I can see where he changed his mind and didn't like what he was hearing, and this is where he bailed off. He bailed off right here and went down, and that's about what I'm about to do here. I think we'll go down and see if I can get out of here without committing Harry-Carry. And
on our estate, we have the big tomcat and 2 she-cats that come in. We've had 5 cubs on the estate born that I know of. The she-cat that was mating last year, we have not seen any sign of cubs. It wasn't unusual to see a cat 2 nights out of 3 when out lamping for foxes. They might be round the lakes, you'd hear the duck creating, maybe 1:45 in the morning, you put the spotlight on, and 200 yards, you'd see 5 foot of black cat just disappearing.
When you've seen the actual body that goes with the animal, and you know what a cat's eyes look like, and when I say a cat, I mean a big cat, you can catch the eyes in a second or two's glimpse, and there's no mistaking what you've picked up.
Well, we've had pug marks all around here, and we've had a lot of sightings at night. And up over to our right-hand side is where the she-cat was laid up with her 2 cubs.
up on top over
Yeah,
here.
up on
Well,
top.
We definitely want to go up there and have a look. See.
She was here on and off for over a year, because the first sighting they were quite small, and
Yeah.
the last sighting would be when the tom left, and he would be 18 months old then, and the female cub stayed with mum until mum told her
So
to.
you are saying that these
push
guys
off.
that you're seeing, or have you seen them?
We've
down here
had
on the res-
eyes many times in this field at night,
Have you? Okay.
and pug marks down through here.
Huh.
She'd actually come down, and one of the tracks in the soft clay had actually spun. You could see the mud pushed up on one side between her toes as she turned her foot.
The track was a fresh track.
Fresh track.
Ah.
He was sniffing the individual pug marks and actually sniffing and snorting at them. But where we've seen eyes at night, they've either disappeared into this corner in here, and we've seen pug marks down across this track.
Here's your badger coming
Yeah,
up over the bank
yeah.
again. You got lots of pheasant in here.
Yeah, and there's the row slots here, but there's a badger set just up over
Well,
the
that
top.
one sure looks like a cat. Holy moly, we got something here. I'm gonna look at this track here for a sec. Okay, a couple things here come to mind. This is actually a dog track because see this big spread?
Yeah.
See how wide that
Yeah.
is? It's almost as wide as my hand. And the weight of the dog is on here, and he's gone downhill, and he spread his paw like that. And you have to look right down into the hole, and you see a little tiny hole in the bottom of the track right in here?
Yeah.
That's the,
See him?
that's the claw. If you were uninitiated, you'd look at that and swear by all goodness out there that that was a cat track, but it's not. It's a dog track.
It's a wartime installation of some sort. We call it the ammo dump.
The ammo dump. We've certainly got some wildlife operating in here.
Well, it has been over the time, I'm sure.
Oh, we have a skull.
Oh, that's badger for certain.
Interesting to normally things
Amazing
like
what you find down here, isn't it?
down holes in the ground.
It's a nice warm place though, anyway.
It is, isn't it? It's the sort of place
the weather.
that something might den up nicely, I think.
Plenty of leaves, but no real sign actually.
No, I don't see any good sign of any feline presence. I don't know. Let's have a look at this. I don't know. It looks like a sort of an overprint of some sort. Sort of looks like a cat, but I don't think it is. There isn't any other sign to sort of back it up.
Okay.
After you, sir.
Okay.
You can be round these woods some nights, watching birds, putting birds away, your mind a million miles away, and all of a sudden you become aware of what I can best describe as a very, very intense presence, something you can almost tangibly reach out and touch. There is absolute silence, an uncannily dead silence. Everything is listening to a major predator on the move. And when you get the distinct feeling that that predator may be watching you, and that the hair on the back of your neck isn't exactly curling up for no apparent reason, it can be somewhat unnerving, and you have to tell yourself that you are a grown man and that you aren't afraid of shadows.
Hi, this is Danny Nineham, Big Cat Investigator. Thanks for calling. Please leave a message and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you.
If you want to re-record your message, press 1 at any time.
Well, going back to 1983, I first got hooked by this, and even from a 9-year-old lad, I love mystery. Anything to do with mystery, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, have always fascinated me, anything to do with mystery. That's how I got involved with this, and in the last 10 years, I've become more intensely involved with it, working for police papers, etc., that type of thing. I've seen cats all over the country. I've seen them on the M25 when I investigated the Beast of Barnet. Saw 3 leopards on Bodmin Moor, and I've seen them quite a few times in the Forest of Dean. I nearly knocked one down going back 6 months ago, and he knocked a black leopard down locally in the Forest of Dean. It's very time consuming. I've literally changed my life in the last 10 years to fit in with this. I do a milk round in the mornings, which is done and dusted early, and allows me to be free then for the rest of the day to be on call for police forces 24 hours a day, and the general public. People ring the papers as well, so I have to be very flexible. Can you tell me whereabouts it actually was? Where was it sat when you first see the cat?
Yes, certainly. As I said, brother and I were driving back from a night out. We came around the corner here.
Yeah.
Got to about the corner of the building yonder, and the cat was kind of sat on the space between the shop here.
What size was the type of cat was it? What colour? And just, can you give me a description of it?
It was black. It had a really kind of short black fur, long tail. I guess it was about the size of a golden retriever.
What colour were the eyes when your headlights hit it first
To
time?
be fair, I can't remember. They were just very bright. I remember that much.
I see, yeah. Well, we'll write all this down and we'll take a statement from you for my files. It's a road area, so we're not going to have any footprints, tracks, etc. to follow, because it's all road, so that's the end of that really. It's just going to be another interesting sighting, yet again in the Wye Valley, to add to my file, basically. Thanks very much.
Earlier today we went down to the garden center, and those nice folks down there, I bought a rat trap down here, and what I plan on doing with this rat trap is modifying the trigger on this one. The trap trigger that was on here would work well, but it's not fast enough. Cat is very, very quick, and because it's so quick you have to do a little bit of modification here. you lose speed here and you lose efficiency. So I have a piece of wire that comes back down and actually comes to the jaw of the trap here. So all I want to be able to do here is have the cat just grab that bait. It only takes about 3/4 of a pound pressure pull or even less. He's going to grab that, and when he does that, rat trap's going to fire, and we're going to end up with the spring from the rat trap actually firing the door. And it'll work very quickly. We'll just tap that here and down comes the door. Economy of motion here. We've chosen this spot here, and we've decided to tuck a trap right in here. The locals have seen and observed lots of activity in this area, and then we're talking professional keepers, the people that are running the beat lines, the people that have been out here stalking and lamping at nights, have seen lots of indication of cat being in this particular area. It's also in a spot where if a cat came walking by, that he would feel that he had found this particular set just by accident. We were going to try to sucker him down the garden path a little bit here. The cats are very curious, and it's just like your house cat at home. As the man said at one time, a cat is a cat is a cat is a cat. So at this point in time here, if a cat's coming through here and they're curious, they will come over and they like poking their noses and things like this. Now, Simon's going to put in a lure and attractant. We're going to appeal to their sense of smell so that they'll be attracted into this set, and hopefully it'll catch him.
The lure can draw a cat from a very long way away. All right, we're set and ready. Off we go.
In the next month, in March, we're hoping to set up the British Big Cat Society, which will be a registered charity. We can then apply for lottery grants and hope someone with press coverage on a weekly, monthly basis we intend to do, hoping someone's going to fund us. It's no longer a mystery. I've proved beyond a doubt. I've seen it over 30 times on a national level. I've gathered data, footprints, and all this type of information, and I've proved that there's no such thing as a beast anymore. These are big cats in the British Isles.
On this very wet morning, we're at the Cricket St. Thomas Wildlife Park, and the good folks here have allowed us to come into the leopard pen here. And what we're looking at here is to show the primary difference between cat track and dog track. And there's been a lot of issue out here in regards to telling the difference between the two. And we can guarantee you there is absolutely no dog in here at this time. What we're looking at here is a cat track that's located in this area here. The typical lobes on the bottom, the double lobe on the forefront, on the front of the claw, and it's asymmetrical versus the dog that is symmetrical. No toe marks here, and beautiful track, very nice and clear, and you can truly see the difference between a cat and a dog. What we've done here is we've created an artificial scent post, and we went up and visited the nice folks in the wildlife park and picked up some of the straw bedding that they had in their leopard pen, plus some of the scrapings of very heavy ammonia scent urine. And I took a bunch of debris and covered the straw, and then I cleaned the area out totally around this particular area. And then what'll happen here is if a cat comes in here to rescent this or see what's going on for a mark here, he'll walk in and he'll come in here and he'll put a footprint on the ground, and we'll be able to tell exactly what came in here, if there's anything that does come in here.
At the end of the day, I feel that there's only one person in the country that's going to capture one of these animals, and that is myself. I'm in contact with police forces and papers, and if anything's going down, like sightings are happening, I'm the first to know. I can get to the location and try and trap one of these animals. It's going to take a time, but I feel that I'm the best man for the job.
What Pete's doing now is imitating a dead rabbit. Most of the carnivorous wildlife will run like heck to the sound of a dying rabbit. It's like ringing a dinner bell for them, and we're hoping that we'll drag a few of the local things in and maybe something else.
This is a particularly ugly little piece of bush. It's got blackberry thickets right to the top of the canopy. Very, very thick, very dense. And some of the locals have seen cats coming out of this area here. and I want to go in here and just have a real good little poke around to see, one, if I can find any sign, and two, perhaps there might even be a den in here. If there's an old den in here, I'm going to go in there and maybe get a chance to take a look, and if I can videotape, I will definitely videotape. But I'm going to be in here for a little while thrashing through the blackberries, trying to see if we can find something. So I'm going to go out here and try to bash my way through this stuff here. It is particularly close stuff. Ow! Ow, 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 that hurt. Thick. Try to break my way up a few more places here, but it is very difficult here. Lots of pheasant. There's a tremendous amount of sign in here. You can see where if a cat was living in here that they wouldn't have any trouble getting in here to get enough food, that's for sure. I'm coming up on a fairly good game trail here in a minute, and I'll have a real good look on that. But the tracking is absolutely perfect. Ow, ow, ow. Ow. Hang on, I got a blackberry wrap around my neck here. Ow. Ow. That hurts. Cat can run through here a heck of a lot easier than a human being can. Ow, ow, ow. More cuts here, but I need a transfusion. Oh, there we are, a little bit of an open air area here. Oh, goodness gracious. A little open spot here. I can actually stand up and take a look around. Lots of sign in here. Lots of deer and fox. Pretty messy. I can hear something moving in the bush below me, but I think it's a deer that's coming out of here. Seen some hair on the branches here. I'm not seeing any sign as far as cat's concerned, but lots of badger and fox all over the place.
Here we have a case that Monmouth Police called me in back in November to deal with this. We had 7 sheep killed over a week period, and after doing several post-mortems on the sheep, I found that they had canine damage to the throat and scratch marks to the rump of the animals, which to me, I believe firmly that this was a big cat.
Oh, poor little gaffer, eh?
Yeah. Well, it's been eaten out since last night.
Okay, let's have a little peek here. What do we got here? If a cat had been in here, there's a couple things that I immediately would look for. Number one is what I'd do is I'd skin out the head here, and what I would be looking for is bite marks on the neck. And what a cat would normally do is he'd jump on this deer, and we would see where he'd taken his claws, and he'd hooked right into the deer like this, and he's grabbed hold of him. And he would either bite him on the side of the neck like this, or you'd bite him right behind the neck. And they're very, very efficient. And a cat too, there's a big difference in the way they bite. A cat is it's a puncture wound versus a dog that is a slash. If you get a dog or you get a sheep and it's got big, huge slash marks and this type of thing on it, that's typically a pattern that you would find from a canine. Primarily a cat is just, you'll get 4 puncture wounds, and that's about it.
Another case here, Basil the Collie Cross. This happened last year. This animal was checked by a vet very thoroughly, who said on live television that this was, he had a conflict with a cat. He disappeared into woodlands and came back in this state. And after the vet examined him thoroughly, they said that this was consistent with a big cat attack.
Let's have a look at this one here.
Okay.
What I want to do is I'm going to try to get a little more action on this set here. We're running out of time here, and I want to speed things up a little bit. So I've gone down and picked myself up a nice little tin of sardines. What I'm going to try to do is get them to sucker them into the trap here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come out here. I'm just going to take a little bit of this juice here, and I'm just going to lead a little bit of trail up into here and sucker them right up to the front door of the trap.
I have another case here, which happened in Trelloch in last summer. Josh Hopkins, a young lad, was playing in a field near Woodland, near his home, and he came across a juvenile black panther in the grass. He approached it, it slashed Josh across the face and mouthed him. Josh screamed out loud. The cat ran that way and Josh ran the other way.
been everywhere and looked at a tremendous amount of ground. Absolutely beautiful country. We just haven't seen anything. That's the problem here. And we haven't been able to determine on the ground of the hardcore physical evidence that we need to indicate that there is a cat in this area.
Everybody certainly believes they've seen some large feline carnivores around, and all we're doing is trying to find some signs, some evidence that they actually exist, so we can narrow the field down and see if we can catch one.
You have to be very, very meticulous, and it takes time. It's not something that just happens overnight. Somebody's seeing something. I have a tendency to lean towards the locals in regards to they're seeing something. But it's a huge area for such a little time to do it. You folks see them and you're tied to the land. Probably 99.9% of the people in this country have never ever even seen one other than pictures on television or in books.
They don't know what they've seen.
And they do not know what they're seeing. They don't know what they're looking at. They have no idea what a kill looks like, this type of thing. And a lot of it deals with conjecture. If you see a cat, just the fact that you see one, boy, you can consider yourself extremely blessed. It's like getting hit by lightning. Yeah. There's a lot of folks in our part of Canada, and we have lots of cats. We've got big ones, little ones, bobcat, lynx, cougar, etc. And never, ever, ever see a cougar. Never see a lynx, never see a bobcat. And other people get really fortunate and happen to see one or two in a lifetime. You know.
You've seen 30 odd of these cats, have you, Dan?
Yeah, over the last 10 years, on and off.
What you got there? You got an album?
Yeah, this is some history basically that happens in the last couple of years and photographs. This is a case that Monmouth Police called me in.
This is indicative of a dog kill. He stripped that.
Lacerations on
Lacerations?
the neck. You've got a set of 4 laceration marks.
Yeah. Now you said a very key thing here. Okay. Cats puncture.
Yep.
Dogs lacerate. See all the tufting around here like that? Cat doesn't do that. Okay, dog does that, but a cat doesn't.
What about a leopard? Because I chiefly think that most of the sightings in this country of a black leopard.
Well, see, even then, when they kill, they don't sit there and pluck every little piece of hair out of it. Okay, see this thing. Remember if you go back to the first picture here,
yep.
And we had that long trail. Okay, put it together with that. Okay,
this was a border collie
yep.
that a vet locally in the town of Newington examined this animal, that it was consistent with a big cat.
This is a typical wound from a dog where he's slashed, and as I said to you earlier about a cat coming in, either grabbing it by the top of the neck or grabbing it by the throat and puncturing versus slashing.
Yeah.
And you've got these huge slashes. Poor little dog.
This incident took place last August up in Trellick in Wales. His name is Josh Hopkins, 11-year-old lad. He was stood there playing in long grass. And all of a sudden, he looked around and see this tail waving, a black tail waving in the tall grass. He went up to it to grab it, thinking it was his domestic cat, because he's got 3 little cats. And all of a sudden, he said this animal came up out the grass, grabbed him like this, hit him across the face, as you can see by this damage, and pulled him into him. And he had 2 canine marks there, looked like, and on the top of the head. And he screamed, and like a young child would, obviously. And he said the cat backed off then. It ran across to the wood, and he ran into his parents' place.
See, I couldn't say that it is or it isn't. But I can give you my personal observation on dealing, because I've dealt with a lot, and I've handled cats and felt their claws and this type of thing. They are absolutely razor sharp, and by razor sharp I mean just touching them like that, they will go right into your finger. Cat coming in and hitting somebody, it's amazing. It'd lay you right open to the cheek line. It'd be right open to your teeth. Dogs again. It's tough to tell on some of these kills here, but this is typical of a dog running a sheep into and they run him into a ditch or something, or either that or the sheep went in there and died on its lonesome, and now the foxes and the badgers are coming in to feed on it. Eh? Typical of a dog kill again, rear entry. This is a dog right here. You can see how they strip the hide. I think maybe we swap cards or something like that. Have you got a card?
Yeah.
And I'll just I've got one buried in here.
There's my card.
For all the searching that I have done, all the people, all the tracks, all the castings I have looked at, all the sightings that I've gone to, I've seen dog.
lots of dog. Dog till it's coming out my eyeballs, but I have not seen a cat track since I've been here. When I look at some of the evidence that's been presented to me by individuals, nothing. Not a chance that that is a cat. In fact, some of that stuff is just outright dog, and they're stirring the pot by trying to say that it is cat when in fact it is dog. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think probably the biggest thing to say that there's three opinions out there. There's my opinion, there's their opinion, and there's truth. And the truth will bear out.